Saints Cowboys preview how the New Orleans Saints can slow down Dallas. All pro Micah Parsons, ladies and gentlemen, T-Bob, Hebert and Jacob Hester, off the bench Saints. This must have been during Hurricane Francine because T-Bob and Jacob are home. T-Bob with the World of Warcraft behind him. Very interesting. Jacob Hester with the Wall O jerseys. Hey, real quick, before we start the video, how about this? Let me show you something without any context, just to show the evidence of the high-level analysis that we provide here. Take it away. Tell me if this looks like a guy whose Achilles is healed. Okay. First of all, notice the stance. So he's flat-footed, so even stance. If you go back to the Vikings days, Kirk Cousins has like a staggered stance in the shotgun. Not the case anymore. So he's changed that. Now let's take a look at how he's operating in the pocket. Absolutely zero push off of his right foot. I mean, that is as all arm gets. Not even getting it on the floor.
Has to do with Kirk Cousins' stance. Okay, first of all, what's a quarterback stance? A quarterback stance is in the shotgun. You're up here at the line of scrimmage, right? There's 3 different stances. Get on my feet right here. There's a right foot forward stance right here where you're in shotgun getting ready for the snap, all right? There's a left foot forward up, which I don't really like, but that's Aaron Rodgers and everyone. You've seen that before. They do all that, James, right? And then ever so often you get the Peyton Manning saddle the horse like balanced step. Okay, that's for people that really don't trust their athleticism. No fault, Peyton Manning, that's just what it is. Kirk Cousins, his entire life, and I watched every snap, he's a right foot up forward. What does a right foot up forward do to you, Chase? It gets you away from the line of scrimmage faster because you're pushing off that right foot, all right? This game, I don't know what changed. I don't know if it's offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, new from the Rams. He went over, he's the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. He's the straddler. He is literally the horse right here. He is in the pocket like Peyton Manning. So in my opinion, what I saw no push off to get away from the pressure. You saw that interception we just saw. It's a lot of pressure. I don't know what's changed. I got to do some more digging. It's just interesting to me. He doesn't look comfortable. And when I say Stroud, he can't push off and get away from the line of scrimmage.
So the Dallas Cowboys, a legitimate threat. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys, I would say, are somewhere in the neighborhood of the 4th-ish, 5th-ish best team in the NFC. Certainly behind San Francisco, Detroit, and Philly. But with Green Bay, with the Jordan Love issue, and I think Dallas saddles in right there behind those guys. Low end, Dallas is a playoff team. High end, Dallas is an NFC threat. The Carolina Panthers in Week 1 were nothing, none of that. You know, the Carolina Panthers were and are dog water, were and are ass on a stick. So, you know, the Saints are dogs for a reason in this game. The Saints, I would say, obviously they overperformed in Week 1, but I would say Dallas overperformed even more. Dallas was on the road. Dallas was went off an underdog in that game. You know, the Saints were anywhere between 3.5 to 6 point favorites at home against a weak team. You know, so coming into this game, the Saints have a ton of momentum, no doubt about it, but Dallas does too. And I think it'd be foolish to ignore that. You know, what Dallas did, I certainly didn't expect them to do that. We had the Browns on our Circa Millions contest ticket. We had the Browns, I think -2 was the number we got it at. And I thought they matched up well with Dallas, and Dallas absolutely destroyed them, absolutely walked them out of the park. I thought there'd be a lot of problems with Dallas with their offseason, you know, with CeeDee Lamb and his contract and Dak Prescott and his contract, and then Mike Zimmer taking over Dan Quinn. But the Dallas defense looks like it didn't miss a beat. So that will be the talking point. You know, the talking point of the preview will be how we match up with them offensively and defensively. We'll kind of go through that as well. I will also do a video on a betting preview. We might give out some plays here, but I'm going to do a full-on betting preview, so don't worry about that. I know people have asked me that in the comments. T-Bob, Jacob, take it away.
Long enough where we know that the worst thing you can do is overreact to Week 1 and make sweeping proclamations going forward. Yeah. But what you can do, you can feel better or worse about your team.
Yeah,
it is unquestionable that you should feel better about your New Orleans Saints. My question to you, Jake, is it was the Panthers. Given what you saw, what do you think? How much of a chance do you give the Saints this Sunday against the Cowgirls?
All right, so T-Bob's right. T-Bob's right. You absolutely do not want to watch Week 1. And I explained this in my top 10 Week 2 power rankings. But like Cincinnati, they lose to New England. You don't want to all of a sudden be like, this team is a bottom 20 team or bottom 10 team. You don't want to take even Atlanta. You don't want to take Atlanta and be like, they lost, they looked awful. They might win 5 games. You don't want to overreact one way or the other, for sure. Now, you can take something like week 1 with the Saints, and you can say, okay, I see the vision. The Saints are a well-coached offense. The Saints have a good defense. The Saints have a good scheme. The Saints offense is clicking. The scheme does work in practice. It's not just theoretical. You can take all that. The way I look at it is that the Saints are tooled to compete in this game. And it is any given Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have 2 good coach teams, 2 well-tooled teams with playmakers, the Saints can win this game. If you simmed it 100 times, would they win it a majority of the times? No. They're a 6-point dog for a reason on the road. But this isn't the same Saints team that last year played playoff teams and got absolutely steamrolled. Okay, this isn't the same Saints team that went to Los Angeles on Thursday night and tried to ruin my life. Totally different. And it is a very small sample size for both teams. It's very difficult to look at Dallas because you can't take any of the numbers defensively from last year because Dan Quinn's not there. You also can't take 1 week of the Dallas defense last year and act like that's just how it's going to be every week. Same with the Saints. Can't take the Saints offensive numbers from last year because it's a totally different team, totally different staff, totally different scheme. But you also can't take 1 week against the Panthers and say, this is the 2007 Patriots. So we're in a tricky spot week 2. Week 2s are always a difficult spot.
No, I give them an opportunity. Now, Dallas looked really good. I'm not going to lie there. Now, how good's Cleveland? That's going to be the question. I mean, Deshaun Watson, the Monstars came down and took all the talent he had in Houston
he's
completely away.
Washed.
And he doesn't look like a shell of himself. And so we'll see. Both played bad teams, but in the NFL, you still have to go out there and take advantage of playing a bad team and win the game.
But isn't that kind of, that's exactly what I'm talking about with like a knee-jerk league and why you can't just take a result. Before Dallas played Cleveland, how many people were saying Cleveland's a bad team? 0. Cleveland, a lot of people, Cleveland was last year one of the best defenses in the NFL. Coach of the year, right? Kevin Stefanski, even though it should have been D'Amico Ryans. Nobody was coming into this season saying the Browns are a bad team. It is really easy to watch that hot, stinking garbage that they put on the field in week 1 and say, oh yeah, they're a bad team. But no one was saying that. Same with the Panthers. It's a little different level because the Browns had a higher ceiling than the Panthers, but it is really easy to watch a game, see a score, and say the team that lost is bad and the team that won is good. But you got to factor everything in, okay? So don't fall into the trap of, oh, the Browns are a bad team. Oh, the Panthers are a bad team. Just like if the Saints lose this week. If we lose to the Cowboys and we lose, let's say we lose 27-23. Depending on the context, I would argue that's a good loss, right? Like you cover the spread, you compete with a good team on the road, you roll over some momentum. If we lose, don't fall into the trap of like, oh, well, now this is the real Saints. Now, if it's like a 42-0 situation, okay, we have a different conversation. But this and that goes both ways. If Dallas loses this game, it shouldn't be all of a sudden trade Dak Prescott and Jerry Jones sell the team if you're a Dallas fan.
The game, and they both won in a way which you typically don't see in the NFL. If the Saints stay on schedule, if they have the game plan that they had,
yes,
yeah, absolutely, they can go out there. Look,
agreed.
Both these defenses are going to make it difficult for both offenses to score any points. I think these are 2 really good defenses. So can Derek Carr make the plays? Can Dak Prescott make the plays if you're a Cowboys fan? I think it's going to be a close football game. I don't expect it to be high scoring. If it ended up 21-17, something like that, that feels like where that game's going to live.
Is defense winning in the NFL right now, Jake?
In the early, yes and no. In the early weeks of a season, the defense is much more likely to win because offenses start slow, especially with the preseason. So a lot's been made about how bad some quarterbacks have looked in week 1. You got to remember, we went from playing 4 preseason games to playing 3, and now starters play 1, if any, with very little reps. So week 1 is kind of like an extension of preseason. That's why I think it was 180 yards was the yards per game for the passing in week 1. So defenses, I think defenses tend to start out of the gate hot, but relying on defense for a season usually doesn't get the job done, I would say. As far as what Jacob said, I mean, yeah, both these defenses are really good. I don't know if I see this game as being a slugfest as much as he does. Like I said, I think it's going to be closer to like that 24-20, 27-23 kind of world, somewhere in there, 27-24, because you're on the track, you're inside, you have a Dallas team who is more than willing to throw the ball all over the place. You've got two defenses which can force turnovers, which can boost scoring. And I have a lot of questions about Dallas's capability to just run the football. And I have a lot of questions still about the Saints' ability to just run the football. And if the Saints are supposed to be losing, which if you look at the odds, they are expected to be losing, then the Saints are probably going to toss the ball around. And so I kind of see points in this game. I'm not saying it's going to be a 42-40 shootout, but I don't know if I see like 17-20 or anything like that. If it is low scoring, though, that does help the Saints. It always helps the dog in a low scoring contest.
A lot of low scores on Sunday. There were two quarterbacks that threw for over 300 yards. Do you know who they were?
Two quarterbacks that threw. Mahomes?
Actually, no.
No, I felt like he did.
He was at like 280.
Josh Allen?
No.
Kyler Murray. I don't know. I'm thinking of scores in my head.
It was Tua and I think
Tua led the NFL. You're right.
Tua and Matt Stafford. But I guess whatever. That was just like a fun little fact. The overall question
it felt like Mahomes threw for 300, but
I agree. But is defense kind of punching back after
I think so.
Some very offensive years? Even last year, the defense was way better.
Well, here's another thing to pay attention to, and you and I.
Let me say, it's also about the defense. Defense changed a couple of years ago when the Chiefs were doing what they were doing. The defense changed to this like too high shell, which is basically like the defenses are basically telling you, and you saw this in LSU USC. It's exactly what they did the entire game, and it ended up biting LSU in the ass. But defenses are telling you, like, we'll give the short passes up. We'll give short intermediate routes up. We'll let you run the ball, but you're not beating us deep. We're not allowing big plays. And that happened because of the Chiefs. And what that did is it compressed the offenses to where it's nothing but dink and dunk. And on one hand, offenses are like, shoot, we'll take 6-7 yards a pop. Sure. We'll take that. And defenses, on the other hand, are thinking like, yeah, okay, we get one incompletion. We're sitting in the 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6. We'll take that too over getting beat deep in these like 70 to 75 games. Now, for a team like LSU, the problem with that was at the end of the game, they never switched. They never switched off of it. USC was just getting easy intermediate routes when LSU should have switched off. So that's why I think it looks like defenses are punching back, because they've taken those deep plays away, or they've tried to at least.
Now we're joking about it while we were watching the game at the Queen. Shout out the Queen. They are really strict right now on these tackles lining up in the backfield. And for so long, these tackles had a full advantage. And I know because I played wing on punt, and I tried to take it. We are supposed to have the same alignment as the tackles had, but we cheated the hell out of it. It's like they're not going to call it. Like I would put my full extended hand, right, if I'm the wing on the tackle, and I'm supposed to be, a part of the tackle.
Break his waist or something like that, right?
Well, the tackle was supposed to break it too, and he was off. So I was, we're out here, we're way off, and because we moved our gunners, like too. If you had your gunners on and you had your snapper, guard, tackle, you'd be fine. But we used to move our gunners so they would go in motion, so one of them wouldn't be on the line. So one of our wings, we were supposed to be on the line, but I mean, we cheated the heck out of it. And it was an advantage for us because, we'll go in unison. You got to go extra 2 yards to get past me. And that's what tackles were doing. Dude, they called that, and not just the opener on Thursday night. If you watched across the league, they called that a ton. And so these edge rushers are having more success. I felt like they let the DBs play a little bit more. But for me, like them kind of cracking down on the tackles, getting that extra jump, I think you saw better edge play because they're not really at that disadvantage like they were.
A bit interesting because normally these rule changes always favor the offense and points. And
well, because I mean, we're the superior side of the football, but
I mean, I'm inclined to agree, but again, our biases and such. So it's interesting for them to make and enforce a rule change that would almost exclusively work against the quarterback. What is good for the New Orleans Saints here is that is your side of the ball. That is your strength. Like if you are a team whose main identity is defense, then any rule change made that benefits the defense benefits you to a greater extent than a team that is offensive. And yes, you can say, oh, team up, but it's very small. That's fine. But look at that toe out of bounds last Thursday night. The smallest things make the differences in this league. These tiny little percentage points in which you can gain advantages. So, Saints fans,
I'm letting them kind of roll with this because I don't think this really matters at all. So,
is it going to help Micah Parsons cook Penny hard? But I guess can't quite cook him any harder. There's probably already going to happen, right? So,
all right. So we talked about this too. Like, what's not going to happen is the game plan is not going to be Trevor Penning one-on-one with Micah Parsons. The game plan will not be Talise Fuaga one-on-one with Micah Parsons. The game plan that Klint Kubiak has to figure out is how can he scheme him out? How can he scheme Micah Parsons out of the game? Is he going to throw screens his way? Is he going to run zone his way? Is he going to force him into awkward positions and awkward situations? What's he going to do? Because it is not going to be, well, let's just see what Trevor can do. Or, well, let's just see what Talise Fuaga can do. As of filming, Talise Fuaga wasn't practicing. As of filming, Marshawn Lattimore's not practicing. Those are huge deals, okay? That is a much bigger deal than whatever rule change these guys are talking about. If Marshawn Lattimore does not play, I tend to like Dallas in this game because the Saints do match up well against Dallas, and now we'll get into a little more of the actual on-field preview here. If Dallas wants to throw through CeeDee Lamb, if that's their whole offense, which it is, they just want to, he had 10 targets last week. He's going to have 10 targets every week. Marshawn Lattimore plays his best games against big-time wide receivers. There ain't a bigger wide receiver in the NFL right now, maybe Tyreek Hill, than CeeDee Lamb. Marshawn is going to want to stop CeeDee Lamb. This is as prime time gets for a cornerback. You are one-on-one, Fox's game of the week, Tom Brady in the booth, and you got arguably the best wide receiver across from you. So Marshawn is going to have to take this Mike Evans levels of seriously, okay? If he can stifle that, if Marshawn can give us an A-plus Marshawn effort and CeeDee Lamb isn't able to cook as he usually does, it's hard to see where Dallas goes otherwise. Because then you have to ask yourself, if you're Dallas, are you comfortable in putting the game in Ezekiel Elliott's hands? Not really, all right? Are you comfortable putting the game in, I was going to say Jake Ferguson's, but he's not going to play. I know right now he's questionable, but he sprained his MCL. How would he play the next week, right? So all of a sudden, then you're looking around like, where does Dallas get his points from? And flip side, if you can neutralize Micah Parsons, I'm not as terrified of the Dallas defense. Now, ask Cleveland how easy that is, right? And you have Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski, LOL. But man, that still drives me crazy losing that DeMeco Ryans Coach of the Year ticket. Huge ticket. And we lose by one vote because a voter left DeMeco Ryans off of his ballot. Unbelievable. But I do like the matchup for the Saints if we can neutralize Micah Parsons. And if Marshawn Lattimore gives us his A-plus effort. It's going to be difficult to do both of those if Talise Fuaga is not on the field and if Marshawn Lattimore's not on the field.
So, if you're a Saints fan, okay, this is a slight win for you here. A little defensive rule change that should juice up your side of the ball. I'm excited.
I would move Micah Parsons over Trevor Penning every play.
Yeah, you do it like how Dion used to follow the best receiver around, just flip it. I wouldn't even have Micah Parsons go to the huddle. Dion, my old man always talks about how Dion used to.
He didn't go to the huddle.
Not even go to the huddle back in the day.
Yeah, no
He'd
need.
Just chill, and wherever the best receiver was, he'd just be on him, and that's it.
Oh yeah. Well, so going back to, God, I don't even remember. I think it was Sunday night game between the Rams and the Lions.
Yeah, Sunday night.
Once the Rams starting left tackle went out, Aiden Hutchinson, he wasn't switching sides.
Yeah,
he was over that left tackle, and the left tackle.
Yeah. But you will, if you go back in that game, you will notice that the Rams were getting rolled with Hutchinson. Hutchinson was really causing some havoc, and McVay adjusted, and all of a sudden the Rams started having major success later on in the game. And it shows you just how good that in-game coaching can be. Conversely, for the Colts game, if you go back and watch that, their defense never adjusted, ever, to Nico Collins. And he just ate all game long. So, again, and that was a problem we had last year, was that we would go into the game plan, and then if it didn't work, it just wasn't going to work. But Kubiak and co. are much more likely, just like McVay and some of the other great coaches, where if something's not working during the game, it may take them a couple series, but they'll figure it out, and they'll do what they have to do. So that's why I do not believe that Micah Parsons is just going to wreak havoc all game. He may have some huge plays. He's still Micah Parsons, but our coaching staff, I think, is good enough to kind of shift him around.
Either got beat or he held on every single play. In fact, some they didn't call because they were like, this is our best pass rusher. He's one of the best in the league. This guy's not very good right now. Tackle. He's wearing number 61. Red flag.
Yeah, I think it was like Kookie, something like that was the tackle's name.
Legs all over the place at tackle. We're going to attack him. And that's what they did. So the Cowboys are going to do the same. And Trevor Penning, this is the game that you can shut us all up, at least for a little bit. You can go out. Micah Parsons is a unicorn. Nobody's built like him. Nobody looks like him. Nobody plays like him in the NFL. And I mean that as a compliment. If you have a good day, you might not have a great day. If you have a solid day, man, we'll give you an attaboy and we'll kind of move on until you prove us wrong.
Yeah, I agree. There were a couple times last year where Penning just literally could not operate.
Yes.
Like could not. And so that's all I need him to avoid this Sunday.
Yeah, man. Well, but again, this is way too simplified. It is not going to be Trevor Penning on an island with Micah Parsons. But they are right, where last year it was at a level early on where Trevor Penning could not operate. He could not be on the field. He couldn't play. So week 1 wasn't the case. Week 1, he was fine. Week 1, he was absolutely fine. But you saw in week 1, Kubiak got Trevor Penning in a lot of situations where it was hard for him to fail. So hopefully we see a lot more of that.
I'm setting my expectations for him to give up a sack, maybe even 2.
Yeah.
Which
normally that gets you cut. But against Micah Parsons and who you are to this point, if you throw the ball 25 times and you give up a sack and a half, honestly,
whatever.
I would take that. It sounds crazy. It sounds wild to even say that, but that's kind of the situation. It's the best maybe in the league against potentially one of the worst pass protectors in the league.
Well, and what an opportunity for Kubiak here to really reinforce what was a legendary debut. I mean, we spent all offseason painting this guy as the savior. Could not have been a better first showing, but now here immediately he is going to have to scheme his ass off to overcome some personnel disadvantages. On the other side of the ball.
Okay, so now let me say this. I think the Panthers, the week 1 with Carolina was the best possible case for this game because Kubiak was able to get his players to see the vision. It's one thing to do it in practice. It's one thing to do it in the preseason. It's one thing to do it, in the film room. But to get out there and do it and get that momentum of all these players now are seeing how this is supposed to go. So they now know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and exactly what this offense wants to do. They've done it in real time. They did it for 4 quarters. Okay. So now going into Dallas, they don't have to wonder. They just have to replicate what they did in week 1. And I don't mean replicate to the tune of 47 points, but I mean replicate okay, this is how it looks when it works. And sometimes when you are up against a team like Dallas, having that is a huge tool. It's a huge advantage to go into this game already knowing what the success looks like for your offense and for your scheme and for your system. If we would have had a game like we did last year against Tennessee where we win 17-16 or whatever, and the offense kind of scuffles, but we still get the win, I'd be really worried because we wouldn't even know what this offense is supposed to look like, what it can look like. We pretty much know what this offense can and is supposed to look like. Now the question is, can you put this team into a position to do the same thing? Can you put this team in position? And this is Kubiak, Carr, Kamara, everybody, the offensive line. Like, can you win like you won in week 1? Can even the micro battles, like the offensive line, can you open up the same holes? The receiver, can you get as open as you got? Derek Carr, can you be as accurate? Can you be as efficient? Can you win on the micro level to then win on the macro level?
Nick, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there. I did want to mention, you mentioned Kubiak and what he can do. It has got to be uncomfortable for Dallas and those edge rushers. I mean, move people all over the place. Even
yes,
like in a
100%.
pass protection, like
yeah,
Parsons is coming right at the field. Well, you got, let's say, Foster Moreau on the left side, and let's say Parsons lines up on your right, and he's going against Penning, and he thinks, man, I don't have a tight end up here. What am I going to do? I'm going to go up the field. You have Foster come across. It's like a hard play action zone run where Foster looks like he's cutting off the backside, but it's a pass, and Parsons doesn't see him, and then Foster gets a shot on Parsons. That slows him down a little bit. Like, those are the things I'm talking about. Like, get creative. Hey, motion Taysom out wide, and then have him come crack Micah Parsons on a toss. Like, make it where he can't just say, I'm getting after the quarterback, or I'm going to be in the backfield. That's what.
Exactly. And we talked about this after the Panthers game, where there was a lot of plays on like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, where the Saints were willing to run the football. And what that does is it puts, in that case, Jadeveon Clowney, it put him in a situation where he couldn't just pin his ears back and go after the quarterback. That screens, different kind of runs. I mean, obviously not like a read option, but those kind of option situations where the defensive end or the down linebacker in today's NFL, where they have to make a decision. But to just line them up and say, like, okay, Trevor, try and stop him, like, that would be a disaster. So I agree 100% with Jacob right here, where make him uncomfortable, make him have to work, whether that's getting through multiple people, whether that's getting checked pretty hard by the Foster Moreaus of the world and Taysom Hills of the world, whether that is get him in coverage, whether that's throw at him, whether that's run at him, whatever it is. Keep him uncomfortable, but do not let him just pin his ears back and go after the quarterback.
Or like shifts and motions, when you do it so much that the defensive ends can't just pin their ears back because they're not scared, but they're timid because they know it could be coming from any direction.
Yeah.
Well, and remember, that's what Nick, another element that could help there is what Nick talked about yesterday, a willingness to run on 3rd and long.
Damn it.
They pick up that first down on 3rd and 7, and you have Jadeveon Clowney just selling out
on another level.
The pass rush, and it ends up opening up the gap that gets the first down. So, like, if creativity is the key to to mitigating the damage.
I mean, this is kind of like the next step of what we said with Kubiak. The first step was, hey, we're going to see a lot of play action. We're going to see a lot of motion. We're going to say, oh my God, just roll. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you what happened. So I have obviously a rolling chair in the studio. I am barefoot. I'm not going to show you. You can pay $19.99 a month over on a different website to see photos of that. But I just switched the chair over. The ball of the chair rolled up and over one of my toes, absolutely absorbing into the wheel of the whatever. Toenail might be gone. I'm not going to lie to you. Toenail might be gone. There could be blood gushing. Anyone else would edit this out. Anyone else would probably go to the hospital. Anyone else would cut this. T-Bob, don't look at me like that. Anybody else. But me, I'm just going to suck it up, finish the video. I may have to get an amputation situation. Okay? But, all right, I'm not crying. Those aren't tears. But, like I was saying before I blacked out, I think, for a second there, the next step of the Kubiak offense, now that we've seen the motion, we've seen the pre-snap creativity, we've seen all that, right? The next step is, can you get innovative? Can you get creative? Can you do all that schematically? A lot of big words there. Can you do all that in game plan? Because Pistol Pete last year, one of the things that he absolutely couldn't do was game plan. He could have had, that's why we were so bad on extra time. Because it didn't matter if he had extra time at all. There was no game planning. I.e., losing to Minnesota, having a bye week, losing to Atlanta, not even scoring a touchdown, I don't think. We even kicked 6 field goals. How well can you scheme? Klint Kubiak? How well can you plan for a matchup like this? How well can you plan against someone like Micah Parsons? Can you do it?
In that mismatch, I trust Klint Kubiak eons more than I trusted Pete Carmichael last season.
Yeah.
So that's
Not even
good.
close.
Pete would have lined up in base offense with no help over there for Trevor Penning, no motion, no threat of anything.
He might give him a chip. He'd give him a chip on the way out. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. He would have done the worst thing to do, which is like max protect and leave everybody in, which really is worse. It's the worst because you have two people out in the route. Yeah, like it would have been the most basic thing. You don't have that, and you have to use that to your advantage. When you have a deficiency, all right, well, how do I hide that, or how do I help that out without showing everybody that I'm helping it out? You get creative. And the one thing that anybody in this coaching tree that he comes from has done a great job of is having players that can do multiple things. Like you watched the 49ers the other night. Juszczyk's out there blocking his ass off, and he's also running wheel routes. And
I was just about to say that. He's also running like wheel routes deep, like 25-yard receptions. So, yeah, I mean, and they're 100% right with Pete Carmichael. That's what I was saying before I lost a toe. Is that Pete, like, before the game planning was just like, and that's that, like, old school dinosaur mentality of they have a good edge rusher. Well, I better put a fullback over there, or I better put a tight end over there, or I better chip them, and that's it. Like, you can do so much more. I mean, I referenced this in a video earlier, but I remember a game where Aaron Donald went unblocked the entire game. They didn't even waste time blocking him. They just let him basically run free, and they either screened around him or ran around him or called plays that where the quarterback was moving out of the pocket away from him already on a quick little route. And what it did was it freed them up a person because they didn't waste anybody over there. They didn't waste anybody on assignment with Aaron Donald. What it also did was it took Aaron Donald out of the play, took him completely out of the play, and it nullified him. You know, like, and that is the kind of thinking that is so new is, okay, not only are we not going to put two people on him, we're not going to double team him, we're going to put 0 people on him. We're going to remove the responsibility of trying to block him. 20 years ago, that would have blew people's minds, right? But you do have to get creative and innovative in today's offense. And what that looks like, we don't know. But as far as like what it'll look like for the Saints. But I do believe wholeheartedly, I do believe that Klint Kubiak has the ability to, and his staff, because it's not just Kubiak, has the ability to get that creative and to be that innovative and to figure out a way to kind of handle. And that's such a beautiful thing. Like I talked about it at the beginning of this video, but this is not a 1+1 situation. It's not win and the Saints are sweet, lose and the Saints suck situation. This is a, can we compete with the big boys on a roster level and a coaching level? We already saw on a roster level and a coaching level, we are way better than the bad teams in the league. Cool. Can we compete now? Can we compete now schematically and personnel-wise? The Rams against the Lions went to overtime. The Rams lose that game. Is that a bad loss for the Rams? No. The Rams know now. They know we're right there. We can beat them. We can beat them. We're right there with who I think is the best team in the NFC. You know, so that's what I want to see from the Saints. And I'm not saying I want to see a loss. I'm not saying I want to see, us just compete but then lose by 3. I'm saying I want to see us be capable of competing. I want to see us be capable of pushing Dallas. Can we match up with them personnel-wise? Can we win some of those matchups on the interior, defensive line and offensive line? Can Chase Young be as impactful as he was against Carolina? Can he do that against Dallas? Can Marshawn Lattimore hang with someone like CeeDee Lamb? Can our secondary be as good as I think they are? Because I'm over here saying that the Saints have a top 5 secondary, maybe the best secondary in the NFL. Well, if that's the case, this is the game to prove it. I'm over here saying the Saints have a top 5 defense, maybe the best defense in the NFL. Okay, well, this is the time to prove it. I'm over here saying that the Saints have a new, creative, innovative offense. Okay, well, let's see it. Let's see how creative we can get. Let's see if we can get Rashid Shaheed, if we can get Chris Olave, if we can get Taysom Hill, if we can get Alvin Kamara, if we can have it where we can see they're in positive situations, where they're in areas to succeed. Let me see that. All right, because last year We didn't see that in games like this.
Debo's lining up at receiver, making plays, lining up at running back, making plays. Kittle's lining up at tight end, at receiver.
Left
Like,
tackle.
everybody in that offense has dual roles. It's like when you show up, you can't be like, well, I'm this. And no, you're going to be this, and maybe also this, which I appreciate.
But didn't we say in the offseason that's why this roster was so perfect for Kubiak? Is because we already had players like that. We already had Alvin Kamara, who could do running back, wide receiver things. We already had Rashid Shaheed, who could be running back / wide receiver things. We already have Taysom Hill, who can be literally every position on the field. And what did you see in week 1? You saw Taysom at tight end, at wide receiver, at halfback, at fullback. What did you see from Kamara? At halfback, at fullback, at wide receiver. What did you see from Shaheed? On the Juwan Johnson touchdown pass, we covered it. He's lined up at halfback. You know, we've seen Rashid take jet sweeps just as much as we've seen him catch 40-yard bombs. So we already have that, which is why the match was so perfect with our roster and Kubiak.
You know,
Well, and
go ahead,
Jake. Reinforcing that point. Remember that that personnel group we talked about yesterday? They had Shaheed at the pistol. They had Kamara split out wide. They had Taysom lined up as fullback. They had Olave as the other wideout. So they're like, he's taking those philosophies that we've already seen them here.
Because even if you don't use Rashid Shaheed in the pistol, if he lines up there and you don't give him the football, it still affects the play. Because they're like, hold up, wait a minute, we had strike blitz call. We ain't doing that. Not with 22 back there. We're gonna bring strike blitz. Sam strong safety off the front side. He's gonna swing out, free release. They're gonna throw it to him. He's gonna hit the corner and be gone. We can't. Hey, base, call it off. And that's just with him being in the backfield. You don't even have to give him the football for them to affect the play. But if you just line up, T, and you run it, that doesn't scare me. I'm going to play whatever coverage. I'm going to still bring my blitz, and we're going to be us. But if you dictate what they've got to do, it slows them down. And so, if I see 22 in the backfield, I'm nervous. If I see 7 do something that's abnormal, I'm still nervous for what he can do, because you can't be the defense you want to be if you have something like that, because you're terrified of what it could end up being. Now, if the Saints don't utilize that, maybe later in the season, it's a different conversation. But here early in the season, again, if I see 22 in a pistol, that sends off like sirens for me. Like, hold up, like, let's play this a little safe. And if you're the Saints, you want the defense to play safe right now while you're trying to figure out exactly who you are.
Yeah.
So, look, the bottom line about all this is already I'm so much more excited for this Cowboys game than I was previously.
100%.
I cannot wait to see how they try to scheme it up offensively.
Wow.
I mean, that's the question. Like, it is exciting. It's exciting because it's like, okay, now we have the guys, we have the brains in the building to try and do this. And it is a difficult task, no doubt about it. But I feel way better going into this game than I did 2 weeks ago, and I've been high on the Saints. So, we'll see. I think this is another one of those things where it's a lot of theoretical stuff because we are so new as far as like this offense. I mean, Kubiak's had 1 game. I think I know what they want to do. It's the question of, can we do it at this level this fast? I will say this is a great time to get Dallas because they have 1 game to look at. It's a great time for us to play the Cowboys. I think that's kind of advantageous for us. I think the Saints keep it close. I do. I think it's a 4-ish point game. Right now, I would be very comfortable with something like 20, 27, 23, somewhere in there, 28, 24. I'm not telling you to rush out and bet the Saints, but I think we keep it close. We play it close. I'm not going to come out and outright predict a Saints win. Again, if you're new to the channel, I'm not going to. We're going to do a preview for every single game this year, and I think it's so cringy whenever team analysts in every game preview they predict the team to win, because then it's like, you think the Saints are going to go 17-0? You think the whoever's going to go 17-0? Like, you will lose games. Even like the Chiefs. Even the Chiefs analysts, every once in a while, they're going to have to be like, all right, we dropped this game. Or there's a chance we dropped this game. Going 17-0 is not possible. But it would be unfair of me to come out here and tell you every single week, Saints will win. No doubt about it. Saints will beat the Cowboys 31-10. All right, so I'm giving you my honest analysis. My honest analysis, I would probably lean Dallas. It's on the road. Dallas is playing really good. You know, Dallas is Dallas. You know, they're a good team for sure. Again, there's a reason we're 6-point dogs in this game. So, but I do think the Saints can compete. I do think the Saints match up well defensively, specifically defensively. I think we can like if you defensively, I'm very confident in the matchup. Offensively, I'm confident in our skill position players. I'm obviously not confident in the offensive line. Now, am I confident that we can scheme? Yeah, I am confident that Kubiak and company can scheme a little bit here. But how far will that take us? We'll have to see. I think right now, if I had to make a prediction, it would probably be in that 24-20, 28, 27, 23, 28, 23 kind of world. Somewhere in there. Somewhere in that ballpark, which all falls within the number. I think we have a much better chance to win the game than we do to get blown out. And that feels okay. You know, if you told me what would happen first, you know, the Saints would win 21-20 or Dallas would win 35-7, I would say we'd win by 1. I don't think we get blown out. But again, we're going to do a ton of coverage on this game, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.